So, I'm about to make the claim that Taiwan is a country, even if you wish really hard that it wasn't. But first, a word from our sponsor, NordVPN. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, using a VPN is something that I make a must in my everyday internet activity nowadays. I need to keep my internet identity safe, I need to make sure that nobody's trying to hack my accounts and get into my stuff, and that actually pertains to everyone. It's not just someone in my line of work. Everyone needs to make sure that their account is secure. I mean, you're buying stuff online, you're putting your credit card number, your identity is online, you're uploading pictures of your driver's licenses, whatever you're doing on the internet that pertains to your identity needs to be safe. And that's why using a VPN is so important. Whether you're on unsecured Wi-Fi somewhere or even your own Wi-Fi, you gotta make sure that you're not vulnerable. And the only VPN I use is NordVPN. It's super easy to use, very, very convenient, and I just like the amount of servers that they have to choose from. It's especially useful when you think about something like region locking. Region locking is when a company decides that it's only going to offer its content in certain countries, and then other countries it's not going to allow that. Maybe that's licensing fees or whatever their choice is, but it does restrict what you can see. Now the cool thing is that actually my wife and I the other day were looking for a movie that we once bonded over in the past. You guys probably know 21 Jump Street, hilarious film, but we weren't allowed to watch it on the American servers, here in the US when we tried to watch it on Netflix. So what we did was hop over to the Canadian server on my NordVPN account, and I was able to watch 21 Jump Street. And this pertains to a lot of different movies and shows and other streaming services as well. So it's super handy to get around region locks. And there's actually websites you can use to find out like what movies and shows are available in what countries. So it was super, super useful for us, not only for internet security, but also for getting around region locks. And now there's a special Black Friday deal starting on November 16th, 2020. It's a super limited time only awesome deal where if you go to nordvpn.com/Laowai86 and you use the code Lao86, every purchase of a 2-year plan, not only does it get you 68% off, but you also get 4 additional months for free. So it's a perfect time to sign up. Definitely check it out. And don't forget, you have a 30-day money back guarantee, so there's no risk. Don't forget to go to nordvpn.com/Laowai86 and use the code Laowai86. Enough claims of hurt feelings. Let's get to the bottom of this. The Chinese government calls it its most sensitive issue, Taiwan that is. China claims that the island of Taiwan has always been a part of China and it will take it back at all costs. Every year, China's leaders say that they will either adopt a one country and two parties system like Hong Kong, or they will take Taiwan by military force. China claims that Taiwan wants to come back to the mainland, but it's just that silly politicians and foreign interference get in the way of reunification. They even made a float in the China's National Day Parade for Taiwan that's like a province of China. It's kind of like photoshopping your crush into a photo and then putting it on the wall and telling all your friends that it's actually your girlfriend. Anyway, all this sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? You hear about North and South Korea, one country divided into two over warring ideologies, communist collectivism versus Western capitalism. These countries are still technically at war and are separated by one of the most heavily armed and dangerous borders in the world, the DMZ. However, there's another similar situation with China and Taiwan. Although there's no DMZ, there's just islands dangerously close to the coast of China. I find these pictures absolutely fascinating, how close they actually come. In case you didn't know, mainland China, or the People's Republic of China, is under full control of the Communist Party of China's government. It's a one-party country with little to no public representation, meaning there's no elections. Taiwan is called the Republic of China. There's no people involved, ironically, and it's a freely elected democracy. From 1927 to 1949, the communists under Mao Zedong, or Chairman Mao, fought the nationalist government under Chiang Kai-shek, or the Kuomintang as the party was called, in a civil war. At the same time, Japan had invaded, and while the communist army allowed the nationalists to fight battle after battle against the Japanese, they largely waited until the nationalists were weakened to the point that the communists were able to take over China. Mao Zedong won.
Yay! Famine!
The nationalist government then ran off to Taiwan, and the war technically never ended. As they regrouped and held on to Taiwan as a Republic of China, they said that they would take back China one day. That didn't happen. So if you look at history, you'd say, well, it looks like the nationalist government lost. China's under communist leadership. It's the People's Republic of China. Yes, they did. You could also say by the same token that the USA is a part of the UK, because historically it was a British colony. This would ignore the fact that the USA fought a revolutionary war and gained independence. Canada, Australia, South Africa, New Zealand, these are all countries that share some ties to England, but for all intents and purposes are independent countries. You see, time changes things, and Taiwan is not under the leadership of the nationalists anymore. If China had launched a successful takeover of Taiwan back then and taken the island, I wouldn't have to make this video. It would be Taiwan, a part of the People's Republic of China. But alas, it is not. Thus, the video. The thing is, Taiwan changed from a brutal dictatorship under Chiang Kai-shek to a freely elected democracy. Taiwan no longer claims that China is theirs. Taiwanese people elected a president that supports a Taiwanese identity separate from mainland China and wants to preserve the democracy, freedoms, and identity that Taiwan has. So you get it. The USA ended up signing a treaty that says it would protect Taiwan if China ever got involved. And now China's butthurt that it never took Taiwan back when it had the chance. That does not stop them from threatening to blow Taiwan to smithereens multiple times per year, however.
We do not promise to renounce the use of force and reserve the right to use all necessary measures.
This is largely for propaganda purposes. You see, it's dangerous for Chinese people in mainland China to wonder why Taiwan is a freely elected democracy with much more freedoms than they have in China, if, in fact, Taiwanese people are Chinese. China can't allow them to believe that. Taiwan, in turn, grew up into a free country and society that ended up a hell of a lot more prosperous, moral, and sustainable than authoritarian China, and has never been more adamant that it doesn't want to return to China. I think people get confused and think that China's the rich one. Taiwan is the rich one. Taiwan has an average GDP of $54,000 per year when adjusted, whereas China has a GDP of $17,000. So that's a brief history about where this confusion comes from. And many people argue that Taiwan is not a country because most other countries don't recognize it as an independent country. But how about I just give you some hard evidence? Taiwan has its own passport. As of now, 146 countries allow visa-free travel for Taiwanese citizens. Not Chinese citizens. A Chinese passport only gets you 71 countries. So let me ask you, if Taiwan is a part of China, then why can a Taiwanese person visit more than twice the amount of countries on a sovereign passport? The passport doesn't say People's Republic of China, it says Taiwan. Taiwan has its own military and guards its territory from China. Taiwan has conscription and every male must serve in the military. All of my Taiwanese friends ended up going to the army for a short period of time. China doesn't have this. And guess what? These people are getting conscripted into the army not to serve the Chinese military, no, the military of Taiwan. Taiwan is constantly training to fend off an attack from China. Why would you fend off an attack from a country that you're part of? Taiwan has its own government, laws, and its own constitution. It does not operate under Chinese control at all. Taiwan is a democracy that enjoys an elected government and an independent judiciary. China has a dictator for life who was not chosen by the people of China. Taiwan has a female president that was fairly elected by the people of Taiwan, not the people of China.
The idea is this: we don't have a need to declare ourselves an independent state. We are an independent country as already, and we call ourselves Republic of China, Taiwan, and we have our own system of running the country, and we do have government, and we have the military, and we have elections.
Taiwan has its own industry and trade agreements. Taiwan has its own banks and currency. You don't go to the Bank of China in Taiwan, you go to the Bank of Taiwan, or the Zhanghua Bank, or the Citibank. And when you go there, you don't withdraw renminbi, the currency of China with Chairman Mao's fat face all over it. You get new Taiwan dollars, complete with nice pictorial representations of Taiwan on each note. I like this one with the kids playing baseball. Taiwan has its own language and writing system, while China simplified the characters, removing much of the cultural meaning of them. Taiwan preserved the traditional character system, and not only that, China only has one national language, Mandarin Chinese, while Taiwan has Mandarin, Taiwanese, Matsu, Hakka, and indigenous Formosan tongues, and they're all nationally recognized languages. They're all equally important. Taiwan has its own educational system. It does not operate under the Communist Party of China's censored school system. State-run media versus private and open free press. Guess what? Taiwan has completely free and open press. It's also privatized, whereas China runs off of state-run media. China currently sits at 10 out of 100 on the Freedom House Index. It enjoys no freedom of press and is completely state-run and censored. Taiwan currently sits at 93 out of 100, currently placing it as one of the freest nations in the world. Taiwan currently ranks higher than the United States of America. Taiwan has an unfettered freedom of speech and freedom of internet. China blocks most websites and employs an army of internet soldiers to go out onto the free internet like YouTube and Facebook and more to steer the conversation to be pro-CCP or pro-Communist Party of China and to downvote and report anything that criticizes its rule. Taiwan doesn't need to do this as it's a free country and it isn't so fragile to be threatened by opinions. Okay, so there's that stuff, but it doesn't really matter what you or I think, nor does it matter that most countries don't recognize Taiwan as a country. What do Taiwanese people think? You know, the people who own that land. According to a poll done by the Mainland Affairs Council of Taiwan, if I add them all up, 86% of people in Taiwan either want full-on independence or to at least keep the things the way they are and not unify with China, whereas 11% of people wanted unification with mainland China. 86 versus 11. Don't believe the lies and the bullshit that China tries to peddle that Taiwan wants to come back home to Mother China. If you did that poll again, because this was in 2019, I bet you'd see even more support for independence. What China did to completely erase Hong Kong's freedoms really drove that home, because the whole selling point was that you can be like Hong Kong, one country, two systems. That's not gonna fly anymore. I didn't make this video to be bitter about China, but let's be honest. It's not fair that China consistently threatens Taiwan with military force when it's clear that they've both grown in different directions. China continues to bully nations across the world that try to have diplomatic relations with Taiwan by cutting off trade or making idle threats. Taiwan is a threat to China only because it managed to be a nation of Chinese people who have become a thriving, wealthy, moral, and transparent democracy that maintain Chinese traditions and cultures, while China became a brutal authoritarian dictatorship that continues to lose credibility as it consistently shows that it's a giant crybaby who has to use thug-like tactics and censorship to promote its ideology. You keep doing you, Taiwan.